Today we'll be discussing how you can get your equity curve rising despite a bear market and continue to grow your net worth. But first, let's get straight into what's going on with the actual Bitcoin price, and then I'll get into the low time frame things, which is where the real difference is made in a bear market. So without further ado, I want to start off with Bitcoin on the CME chart on a weekly over here. And we have been looking at this with our short, medium, and long-term moving averages. And I've told you that anytime that we are stuck below those, generally risk remains to the downside. And if you do move this onto a line chart, you will notice that we are continuing to have lower and lower closes on the low side, so lower lows and lower highs. And I'll just be waiting to see, is this range going to break? Once you start to get a confirmed close underneath the previous low, even on a daily time frame, so below 18,700, that would be a signal to go short, because more than likely breaking down the range, and that's going to lead to a massive capitulation, something like that on the left hand side. So keep your eye out on this chart. I really suggest have a look at the CME chart, because the big players tend to trade the futures chart because it's only open from Monday to Friday, and those big quant firms are closed on the weekends, and therefore sometimes this chart is a little bit of a leading indicator of what to expect. So I always like to look at this on a Friday and then a Sunday evening when it does start to open. So moving on to Bitcoin over here on this weekly chart, this is the spot chart. One thing that I have noticed is the lower Bollinger Band over here is picking up to the upside. So before we were looking at a low of about $16,000, and now it's currently jumped up to about $16,900. So let's round it up. It's at about $17,000. And I would expect some sort of a reaction from that zone if price were to sell off into there. But the Bollinger Band's contracting and squeezing in, of course, as I've mentioned before, indicates that eventually we are going to have a big move, and it can be frustrating. Sometimes it takes longer than one would expect, but it is a statistical guarantee that eventually this is going to break either to the up or the downside. According to the daily chart over here, risk also still remains to the downside with price stuck below all the important moving averages that we look at. You do have the RSI, which once again is starting to break down. I'd like to give it the rest of today and maybe even tomorrow to see how this closes, if it's going to close outside. Every other time it had broken down like this, the next day it quickly jumped straight back in, and therefore there were no closes outside. So I'm going to keep a close eye on this. If today closes like this could really become the start of a major breakdown. And you can tell that even through the views, a lot of the people have dropped off. And this is typical of what happens right before a major move. They get so bored in the market and then something massive happens. And from a trader's perspective, that's when you're losing out on the meat of the move, right? It's obviously boring in the consolidation, but where the real money is made is when those big expansive moves do take place. And for those of you that are watching now, congratulations, you've still got your finger on the pulse of the market, and therefore you will probably be richer for it. Looking at the DXY over here, you can see that it is looking like it's starting to form a little bit of a higher low over here in comparison to these sides on the left-hand side over there. So I am watching this closely as well to see if this picks up and starts pushing towards that 114 level. It's been consolidating for quite some time now, for almost 2 weeks within this region over here. And maybe there is going to be some sort of movement coming up soon. The NASDAQ, I wanted to touch on as well, rejected from resistance over here. So now we need to see, is it going to consolidate sideways or come all the way back down into the key quarterly? S&P 500 futures, let's take a quick look at that one. Looks very, very similar. I'm not sure that this is going to make it back up to this section over here. I think that it turned sooner than expected, which is actually a more bearish sign than bullish sign. Now, one important thing that I noticed, which is coming into the zone, is the 10-year yield. So if you have a look at that, 10-year yield is now pushing directly into its resistance zone over here, which I said this is where I'd expect some sort of a reaction between 4.2 and 4.5%. There might be at least some sort of a pullback. So a lot of contradictory indicators against each other, because DEXI looks like it wants to go up. DEXI going up would mean that, of course, crypto would struggle. But with the 10-year yield, if this meets resistance and this turns back down, that would mean that crypto would do well. So a little bit of conflicting indicators over here. So all the more reason to really chart the asset that you're looking at, which is Bitcoin, and be hyper focused on that. And speaking of which, Bitcoin is stuck still within its major range over here. Let's just make that a bit bigger. So you can see the major range stuck also below this diagonal trend line, which has been holding price down for quite some time. And now the question is, because it probably is going to sweep the lows again. That's my expectation, something like that. Is it going to bounce through there and then break that primary diagonal resistance and then start getting above? Or is it going to start closing below these levels and then confirm a major breakdown? We are very, very close to something big happening, or at least the major move that we've waited for such a long time. It can't grind against this area much longer without something happening. I mean, you can literally pull your cursor to the right-hand side. Let's say this can drag on maybe till the end of this month, sometime next week. I know there's a massive Bitcoin options close that's coming as well. Maybe that's going to affect the market when those options contracts start to expire. I'm not too sure, but I do think that the move will happen soon. Now, I wanted to briefly touch on some of the altcoins that we were looking at yesterday. I charted out a whole bunch of them, and I said to you guys, I put it all on Discord. Everything is in there. If you're not on the Discord, the link is below in the description. It's completely free to join. You can be in any of the general chats. We do have what we call the VIP segments or groups, which is mine, Sheldon's, and the Bombay Trillionaire. If you do want access to that, you'll need to use one of the sign-up links below from Crypto Banter, which is also in the description. And then you can make a small deposit there, and then you get access. And that's where I drop all of my trade ideas. So with that being said, let's go into some of those charts. I mentioned, let's make this nice and big for you. I mentioned for Cardano, it looks really, really bad. If you put it on a high time frame, it's pretty much broken a very, very key area of support. It's completely lost that. And now it could be in free fall. The only hope would be that there's some sort of a deviation. So I'm currently on the 1 hour chart over here, and I said you'd be looking for something like this. And yesterday I told you, but I would not dare to touch along on this unless it reclaimed these levels over here, unless it broke above this diagonal and broke back into the range. So you have a confirmed deviation like that, and then you can target the upside. But so far, the probability does look like this is just going to break down and quite hard. I think this thing could have about 50% more to the downside. Put your charts on a high time frame if you are a Cardano holder, and then just ask yourself where the next major horizontal support area does lie, and it's not looking good for that one. Okay, here was Solana. So that trade went into full profit. I'm going to delete that because it's over. It's not relevant anymore. And now I'll just be waiting to see. I'm not really willing to buy over here. I'm only really willing to short Solana because it is stuck below primary support level. Wait for some sort of a snapback into this zone over here. If you are somebody that's a little bit more of a degen and you desperately want to take a trade, at the very least, you got to break this trend line before you can long it into the resistance again, and then you can flip short again. But I'm not willing to do that. Matic, let's take a quick look at that one. Matic is starting to look like it's deviating above, so just above the mid-range, came back down, and it's looking like it's most likely going to get sent straight back down to the range lows over there. Ethereum is a horrible looking chart, not clean at all. Nothing can really be done on this chart. I'm not willing to take any trades because if you get above these resistance zones, you're going to come straight into the next resistance. You get above that one, you go into the following resistance. The only thing I'm interested in on Ethereum is any bounces I would short. And that's pretty much as simple as it is. NIA was very close to activating a long trade yesterday, because if I zoom out, again, to give you perspective, we're hoping for, let's just make that a bit bigger. I'll put on a 4 hour. Okay, so higher time frame perspective, we were hoping that there could be a long trade that comes here, whereby the same way that you've had deviations over here, you have a deviation on the bottom of the range, and then it takes you back into the broader range. And in order to front run that idea, or at least get in early, we were looking at it with a even smaller range. Let's just make that. We're looking at it with a smaller range with a diagonal over here, which would activate our trade if we got above this zone. And this is why you don't want to front run any of these trades. A lot of people ask me, like, if I can just drop the entry level without a stop loss in the Discord, and I was like, no, that doesn't make sense. I can't drop any trade unless it's active, live, and ready to take, of which is only one, and I'm going to show you that on the next chart now. But you want to see something like this for near. You want to see near break back above here, clear there. As soon as it clears here and you have a break of structure, that's the most important part. You want to see a proper break of structure above this area. Then you could buy the pullback into this horizontal zone, and that would be your trigger to go long. And then you can start targeting towards the mid-range and the range high. Now, the only trade that is active is this one over here, which is SUSHI. So I also outlined SUSHI is also stuck within a range, very easy to see, nice clean range. You can see you've got each time that it's come out above that range, deviation back in, below the range, deviation back above, small deviation, and so forth. So very, very clean, nice chart to trade. And we were saying that either there's going to be a deviation at the top over here, like this one was too quick, or we're going to break down this diagonal, and then you'd have your signal to enter, or to start watching. So yesterday I put this one in the daily candle newsletter. I said, watch for either a lower high. The lower high didn't come as high as I expected. As you can see, I drew it up here. It already started to turn here, rolled over, and now you have a swing low below this area. That's a full-on signal to go short. So if you're not in this trade yet, I would be patient. There might be a little bit of a push back to the upside over here. It probably won't come as high as this entry level. It's probably going to come in line with the horizontal, testing the underside resistance over here. And this would be your signal to enter. So it's going to be approximately in this zone over here. There you go, like that, at about $1.39. And I'll update you again in the Discord. And that's a straight signal to short. And then you're going to short it all the way back down to the range low. Let's look at Apecoin. So Apecoin is an interesting one as well. It came very close. It broke the diagonal trend line over here. So I had an alert set for once that happens. But you would only have gone long if you broke the structure. So you needed to get back above this zone over here on a closing basis. That would be your signal that structure is changing, and you have a higher high, wait for the pullback, and then you buy that, and then you're targeting this main primary trend line over there. Once you break that, then it's all systems go for a swing long that could have much higher targets. That has not happened, and this is the importance of waiting for confirmation and not front running any of these ideas. AVAX I have here as well. Same thing. I had an alarm. You can see here this alarm did go off as well, but you didn't have any break of structure. You needed to break the structure over here, something like that. Pull back into that zone, and that would be your signal to enter. Quick short trade over here. As you get into resistance, you would move your stop loss up. If you break that, now again, same thing. It's all systems go. You've broken the main trend line, and then you can long this for much higher prices. Another trade that has worked out is EOS. So here you have EOS. If you have a look at this, okay, EOS was holding, there you go. It broke its main trend line over here. And then same thing as what I've pointed out on the other charts. Do you see that over there? You have a break of structure, a higher high in comparison to these levels. You now have the pullback. This is pretty much right in the zone where you'd want to go long. So we can adjust this trade because most of you are probably not in it. So free trade. I didn't expect that this one was going to work out live, but here we go. You're going to raise this over here. Your entry would pretty much be right where we are now. Stop loss is going to be below. Let's just quickly go there. Stop loss is going to be below that wick. So to give you the exact levels, I should probably say this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, blah, 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 blah. You understand the risks, right? Let's quickly make this a bit cleaner for you. Okay, here you go. take that there. Okay, so I'll post it again in the Discord so that you can have a clean look at it. But your stop is basically at 98 cents, 99.87. Your entry is right where we are right now at $1.033, and then your TP, the upper limit of this TP would be $1.33, but I would definitely take half my profits when you come into this resistance over here. So anywhere around this region, I'll leave that there. That's TP1 at $1.15. TP2 is going to be all the way at the top there. So free trade for you. Let's see if it works out. You have broken structure. You got to give it the benefit of the doubt, even though the rest of the market does look quite bad. Now, with that being said, the point of the show today is how to grow your net worth in a bear market. And the way that you do it is by clearly defining your risk and taking high probability trades. You don't need massive trades with enormous profits. If you look at a compounding calculator like this, and I've used very modest amounts or values, at least over here. I said if you have a starting balance of $2,500, of which I think a lot of you out there have. If you don't, that's fine. Just remove a zero. Say that you're starting with $250. That's also fine. But I think most of my viewers have about $2,500 at least to trade with, if not more. So we'll work on that value. You don't need to overtrade. You don't need to take a lot of trades. Let's say you just make 5% per week. That's it. 5% per week. Now, this is why this is so important. You have to always protect your downside, because as soon as you start taking multiple losses, then these numbers go completely out the door. You need to be averaging at least 5% profit per week. And we know how fast crypto moves. If you're patient and you're not greedy, it's an abundance of opportunity out there for you to get 5% per week. So what would that look like after 1 year? If you hit calculate, you would have your $2,500 would be at $26,302. So your total earnings is $23,802, guys. That's enormous. And you can play with those numbers, right? Let's say you're a little bit of a bigger guy and your trading account is $10,000 and you just do 5% per week. You've pretty much turned that into $100,000. So you've 10x your account. That's good. That's phenomenal. Asking just for 5%, I think that it's very realistic. You can play around with these numbers. Just type this in Google, thecalculatorsite.com, or just Google Forex compound interest calculator, and then you go to the Forex compounding section over there and play around with what your account size is and what your goal is to achieve per week. You don't need to force trades. If there's no trade, don't take the trade. Because as soon as you start losing, these numbers are completely gone out of the window. So I think that brings us to the end. Volatility is likely going to come soon. It can't go on much longer than this. And while it's ranging over here, making those 5% are actually easier than sometimes in a trending market, because it just oscillates. Look at that, from Bitcoin from bottom to top is 8% moves. And that's without that, you could literally get your 5% per week using just a spot account, not even touching leverage. So guys, that is the end of today's stream. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I know your time is valuable, so I am trying to keep these videos short. Please give this video a like, hit the bell notification, and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. And then again, if you do want to participate in the trading competition to sharpen your skills and your tool set, there is links in the description below with our trading competition where you can win up to $100,000 in cash prizes. So I will see you all on the next video, which will be Monday. Have an absolutely stellar weekend. And for the rest of you, I'll catch you in Discord. Cheers for now.